The US government is trying a new approach to solving the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians. Senior advisor to the White House, Jared Kushner, has told the Peace to Prosperity conference in the Bahraini capital Manama that economic development can help reach a political settlement.
Economic growth and prosperity for the Palestinian people are not possible without an enduring and fair political solution to the conflict, one that guarantees Israel's security and respects the dignity of the Palestinian people. However, today is not about the political issues. We'll get to those at the right time. My direct message to the Palestinian people is that despite what those who have let you down in the past tell you, President Trump and America have not given up on you.
The US plan entails helping Palestinians raise $50 billion to invest in industries and infrastructure. Kushner says his proposal could create 1 million new jobs in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. That would halve poverty among Palestinians and double the size of the economy over the next 10 years. Palestinian officials have rejected the plan. President Mahmoud Abbas says the people need their own homeland, not money. But some analysts have warned that desperate economic conditions could leave them with no other option.
The Palestinian Authority is trying hard to get rid of its financial crisis, which is an existential threat to them. So both sides will not be able to completely reject economic solutions if they can benefit from them.
The so-called deal of the century won't come cheap either. Washington's already cut funding for some aid projects, and it's only willing to pay for a portion of Kushner's plan.
You know, it's only about 20% equity. So it's not that much. It's like $5.5 billion. We put at Blackstone more than $5.5 billion in a single investment. And this is for remaking a region.
The rest of the support would be in the form of loans, for which Palestinian authorities and businesses would have to pledge property as collateral. That, along with distrust between Palestinians and the US and Israel, could make Kushner's deal a non-starter. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Well, let's get more on this now with Jeremy Wildeman, a research associate at the University of Bath, who specialises in aid policy for Palestine. He joins us now from the Canadian capital, Ottawa. Welcome back to Money Talks, Jeremy. Now, we've heard the likes of Saudi Arabia and the UAE express their support for this plan, while the Palestinians say it really is another attempt to perhaps deny them a homeland and doesn't address the real problem. Is this plan dead in the water?
It might not be dead in the water, but what I can say is that politics is present and politics comes before development. However, the plan that Kushner is presenting actually reflects US plans going back to the 1970s. So back during the Carter administration in the 1970s, they proposed a Happy Palestinian plan. During Reagan, the Quality of Life plan in the 1980s. In 1993, we had an investment in peace to support the Oslo peace process. And then we've had various plans, such as the Palestinian Reform and Development Plan, where effectively the US is trying to put economics ahead of development, a political solution, with the idea that economics can stimulate a political end. In reality, it's acting as a bit of a release valve, helping keep the Palestinian territories quiet with money, while Israel doesn't have to really adjust its policies.
Now, Jared Kushner says having an economic plan is a necessary precondition to an eventual political solution. So you don't agree with that, obviously?
No, it's failed as long as Palestinian territories have been occupied. All it has done is provided fuel, allowing Israel to maintain its current policies of colonization and annexation of the West Bank and East Jerusalem and control over Gaza.
Okay, now just to recap this $50 billion plan, it wants to create a global fund where many donors will, I guess, feed into it, that will eventually be invested in projects in Palestine to revive growth in the Palestinian territories, but also create 1 million jobs and halve the poverty rate. Really pie in the sky ambitions here, but even if the Palestinians agreed to it and signed on, would it have any chance of success?
It won't work. I mean, I might put some money into the economy to keep it moving, which has effectively been the case since 1993, where we've had over $35 billion of investment. And actually the Palestinian economy may be worse off than it was prior to the Oslo peace process. Also, the donors involved is quite interesting. If you look at who might fund it, Europe appears as if it's going to take a step back and provide less funding, and Gulf donors will be expected to put in significant sums. One of the issues with the Gulf donors is they don't always come through with their funding. So some analysis example that we've done of Kuwait is that they've made quite big pledges and they have provided significant funding, but typically they will give half of what they pledge. So we don't know what will happen with regards to funding coming in, and then in the end, none of the business plans will work. Unless you have freedom of movement and basic rights for the Palestinians, so a political solution, you can't actually have development. The whole model of Palestinian economic development since 1993, and in this plan as well, is that you want to have a Palestinian economy that can export in order to grow its economy. You can't carry out exports without basic freedom of movement and reliable freedom of movement and access to borders.
Now, we also heard Jared Kushner say that the Trump administration is and always has been committed to the Palestinian cause, which would, I guess, fly in the face of many of the things they've done recently, for example, declaring Jerusalem the capital of Israel. Now, do you believe the Trump administration's intentions here?
Well, they have to be careful here because they can't completely abandon the Palestinians. That would cause a lot of problems for their regional and their European allies. And also for Israel. I mean, a lot of the funding coming in keeps Palestinians quiet under occupation. If you look at the last 10 years in particular, it's been used to develop security forces that have relieved Israel from having in its policy to patrol Palestinian urban centers. And you've had security cooperation with the Palestinian authorities. So, and something to add to this is that some studies indicate that as much as 80% of the funding going into the Palestinian, almost Bantustans, let's call them, end up going to Israel.
Interesting. Okay, we'll see what happens with this aspect of the so-called deal of the century. Jeremy Wildeman, always good to have you on. Thank you.